What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. In this week's video, I'm going to talk about a pretty popular topic. It has to do with projectors and monogram lighting. Hang out, let's talk a little bit. Yo! Welcome back to the channel, everybody. In this week's video, I'm going to talk about something that actually gets asked quite a bit by a lot of different DJs, and it has to do with projectors and monogram lighting, or name and lights, or monogram projection. There's a lot of different ways people describe it, a lot of different ways to actually say what it is, but in this particular video I'm just going to call it monogram lighting. Before I go on, as always, thank you everybody for liking, commenting, and subscribing to my channel. I'm getting very close to 8,000 subscribers now. Before I know it, I'll be pretty close probably to 10,000. And that's going to be a massive achievement because I never even thought that my channel would grow this big that quick. So thank you to everybody. If you're new to the channel, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell notification. I do try to put these videos out every week, so don't miss out on anything, and be sure to be notified when new videos are up on the channel. Monogram lighting. What exactly is it? Monogram lighting is something that you can do for your events that gives it a little bit more elegance, kind of elevates it on a whole other level. And what it does is it basically will project your client's name, like a bride and groom's name, their wedding date, or something about that event. It could be a company party and maybe you want to project the company's business logo, or like I said, a wedding, so the bride and groom's, their name, their wedding date, maybe a cool little graphic that, you know, like a couple of wedding rings or a heart or whatever. Sweet 16s, you could do the Sweet 16 girl's name with maybe a tiara, her name, with the date underneath it. There's a lot of different ways that you can actually do monogram lighting, monogram projection, name and lights, whatever you want to call it. There's also a lot of different ways of projecting it, or a lot of different areas within a venue that you could project it. Like what I like to do a lot of times is you can project the monogram above a wedding cake. You can do it as guests are entering into the venue to sort of like welcome them. You can just try and find a good spot on a wall that is open and it's just a white wall or one color wall, and it just looks really, really good, and it's massive, and as people walk in they see this thing up on the wall, and it's a really cool thing. You can put it on the floor. Some people like to do that. I generally will try not to ever project on a dance floor. The reason for that is because when there's bride and groom doing their first dance, then what happens is the monogram lighting goes all over the bride's dress, and it just looks kind of tacky, doesn't look very professional. So I can tell you, probably out of all of the weddings that I've done over the years, I've probably only projected it on the dance floor maybe 2, maybe 3 times. But usually what I try to do, like I said, is just keep it on a wall, keep it near the wedding cake, keep it at the entrance when people are walking in, that kind of thing. So before I start talking about projectors, let's talk about how monogram lighting has evolved over the years. When people started doing monogram projection, long time ago, they were using these old school, what's called GOBO projectors. And a GOBO is either a steel, metal, or glass disc that has the design either laser cut out of it or printed on it, and these little cylinders would go inside these old school GOBO projectors that were using these huge halogen bulbs that got very, very, very hot. And people would, you know, put the GOBO inside the GOBO projector, and they would project it, and that's what they did back in the day. And even to I would say today, there are still a lot of people that do use the old school GOBO projectors. There's nothing wrong with them. It's just that it's old, outdated technology, and I'll tell you why. First, like I said, those old school GOBO projectors, they get very, very hot, and you don't want to be around them. You don't want to touch them, just because you can get burned, and the bulbs to actually to be replaced in those things was very, very expensive. The other issue with these old school GOBO projectors is you would have to contact a company that created these GOBOs and you would have to make sure that the design was 100% perfect. You had the names spelled right, you had the date correct, whatever. And then you'd have to wait. There would be a turnaround time for this gobo to come in. And if you have limited time where you need to get this to be able to project a monogram at your event, then you're sort of at the mercy of the company that's creating these gobos for you. Also, like I said, a lot of those gobo projectors were big, they were bulky, they took up a lot of room, they were kind of heavy. So that's sort of like one of the drawbacks to using those. Now let's fast forward a little bit further. The industry sort of evolved a little bit more, and gobo projectors got smaller, more compact, more efficient to travel with. And they went from using the old school big halogen bulbs to an LED bulb. And it still used the same style of gobo. You could contact a company, they would create either a glass gobo, a metal or steel gobo, and even there's some those gobo projectors where you could print out your own gobos at home on transparency paper. The issue with that, there's a couple different reasons why you kind of want to stay away from those types of gobo projectors. The one is the LEDs that are used in them, they're low power. They might be 10, 15, maybe even 20 watts. And when you're dealing with low power like that, it's difficult to project your gobo long distances, or let's say you're in a venue that's very sunny, very bright. It'd be very difficult to actually see those gobos on the wall or the ground or wherever you decide to project it. Also, the quality of printing out your own gobos on transparency paper is very low. The quality is just horrendous. Don't ask me how I know, because I've actually tried it and I've actually used those types of gobo projectors in the past, and I very quickly just moved away from it because it was not that great. So I know it sounds like I'm kind of trashing those LED gobo projectors, but there were some pretty innovative and kind of cool features with them. A lot of them that came out allowed you to rotate or spin the gobo. You could also expand the gobo, so if you needed it bigger, or shrink it down, make it smaller to fit basically wherever you wanted. Usually a lot of those types of projectors, they would have like a little slider at the top, and that would allow you to control the size of what you're projecting. And like I said, they were very small, they were very compact, they did not get hot at all, they didn't heat up, and a lot of them would have magnetic brackets, which is really cool because then you could really just attach these things literally anywhere. You could put them on a pole, a tripod, you could hang them from a ceiling. Some came with scissor clips that allowed you to attach it to drop panels from the ceiling. And there were a lot of different ways that you could actually use them. But like I said, the problem is that they were just very low power, and they didn't look good, they didn't shine gobos very professionally, and they just weren't the best. Now let's talk about what many people have moved on to in the industry when it comes to monogram lighting and monogram projection. Projectors, video projectors specifically. Now video projectors come in all different flavors, different sizes, different features. And the reason why a lot of DJs have actually moved to using a video projector is because it's very simple to create a monogram. People have used Canva. People have even used PowerPoint. I use Photoshop. When I create my monograms, whether it's a color or a black and white, I create it in many different sizes. Generally, I'll start out with 2400 by 2400 at 300 DPI, and then I'll shrink it down by 50% two more times. So I'll start at 2400 by 2400, and then go to 1200 by 1200, and then 600 by 600. So I have 3 different sizes of my monograms, and that really allows me to project it literally anywhere. And a lot of modern video projectors do allow you to adjust the size of whatever it is that you're projecting. Usually on the very front, you've got a little turny dial thingy here, and then it allows you to not only focus, but it also allows you to adjust how far away and the distance as far as what you want to project the projection onto. Now if I'm doing a video monogram or an animated monogram, I'll usually use Adobe Premiere and After Effects. It just depends on what I'm going for. But generally I would say a majority of my weddings are static monograms that I'm creating in Photoshop. And the ones that I do animate or do add a little bit more of a cool wow factor to it, when I do want it to be a video or an animated monogram, then I'll build it in Adobe Premiere and Adobe After Effects. Now I mentioned that there are a ridiculous amount of different projectors that are out there. You can go on Amazon and you can type in video projector and you'll probably have 100 pages worth of different types of projectors that you can actually buy. What makes one projector better than the other? Well, here is some important things to keep in mind whenever you are shopping around for a video projector. The big thing is the lumen count. Now when you start searching for projectors, you're going to see projectors saying it has 5,000 lumens, 8,000 lumens, 2,000 lumens. You're probably wondering, what the heck, what do I buy? What exactly is a lumen? So you're going to see also too, when it comes to lumens, two things. You're going to see something that describes ANSI lumens and something that just says regular lumens. Generally, just if you see a projector that says, hey, we have 5,000 lumens on this, it does this, it has all these different features, and then you might see another projector that's more expensive and it might have less lumens, but it'll say we have 3,000 ANSI lumens. ANSI, A-N-S-I. And ANSI is it actually stands for the American National Standards Institute, and what it is a measurement of overall light output by a projector. So an ANSI lumen is a true light output, whereas if you see a projector and it doesn't say ANSI, A-N-S-I, it just says, hey, we have 6,000 lumens, generally speaking, it's going to be pretty dull. It's not going to be very bright. You generally will see that with the cheaper projectors, or maybe even some of the projectors that are created overseas in China, just low quality, low cost. So you have to be very, very careful whenever you are buying a projector, because you want the absolute brightest projector that you can possibly afford, because the brighter the projector or the more ANSI lumens that you have, that's going to allow you to do a couple different things. It's going to allow you to project the monogram at a farther distance, and it's going to allow you to project the monogram when it's very bright. Say the sun is shining in the venue, or they have all their lights turned on. People are still going to be able to see the monogram on the wall or on the ground or on the ceiling or wherever you project it, no matter how bright it is. So the more ANSI lumens you have, the better that you'll be able to counter effect the brightness and the distance that you want to project the monogram. When you are shopping, a good, I would say, tip is to not buy anything below 3,500 ANSI lumens. If you can obviously afford much higher, definitely do it. But a good projector that has, at a bare minimum, a 3,500 ANSI lumens is probably going to run you anywhere from $600 to $700 for a good quality one. Now there are probably ones out there that are a little bit cheaper. They might have less lumens, but you know, I would say $600 to $700 is a good budget to give yourself to get a really good quality projector. And there's all different brands out there. There's BenQ, there's JVC, there's Optima, even Sony has some. You can shop around and find pretty much anything you want. The other important feature that you want to look at is contrast ratio. So what you're going to end up seeing is when you're looking at all these different features of different projectors, you're going to start seeing contrast ratio that basically says 10,000 to 1, 20,000 to 1, 50,000 to 1. And what the contrast ratio means is that you are going to have darker colors, darker blacks, whiter whites, and it also means that you're not going to see a shadow or a border or like the black background around the monogram whenever you project it. Some of the lower quality projectors that are out there, they'll have a low contrast ratio, and what ends up happening is you'll see this sort of weird like gray box around the whole monogram, and it just looks really, really bad. So at a bare minimum, you want something that has at least 10,000 to 1 contrast ratio. Obviously, if you can afford something that has better contrast, like a 20,000 or 50,000, then by all means, go ahead and get it. But stick to, at a bare minimum, 10,000 to 1, and you won't see that black border or background around the monogram when you create it and project it. Another feature that you really want to look for in your projectors is keystoning. So a keystone feature allows you to adjust either the horizontal or vertical alignment of the projector, so that if you have the projector mounted off to the side or at like a weird angle, when you project it onto a wall, the keystoning allows you to adjust the angle of the monogram so that it looks perfectly straight. Without keystoning, what ends up happening is the monogram might be curved up a little bit, or maybe one side of it will be really, really big and then the other side will be kind of really small, and it just kind of looks warped and kind of really, really awful. I'll just say that. It just looks really, really bad. So if you can find a projector that has both horizontal and vertical keystoning, that literally will allow you to adjust and shift the monogram no matter where you put the projector anywhere in the venue. Here's my final tip when shopping for a projector. Try and find one that accepts either an SD card or a USB jump drive. What happens is when you create your monograms, you're going to put that file, that JPEG or an MP4 if you're doing animated, but for a static, if you're using a JPEG, you will move that onto the jump drive or an SD card, and allows you to plug that directly into the projector. And from that jump drive or SD card, it will then project onto the surface. Without a projector accepting SD cards or jump drives, what happens is that you either have to tether it to a laptop or you have to use a media player. I'll give you an example. So this projector that I have has a media player. This one is actually made by Von House. Von House is actually a pretty popular one. I know a lot of DJs have actually used it. There's a few other ones that are out there that are very similar. They just go by a different name. But Von House is good. This one, I just have it Velcroed to the top of my projector, so it just stays right up on there. And I see it accepts SD cards, and it just allows me to connect everything and project whatever I want. So that's something that you always want to look for, because like I said, if it doesn't accept SD cards or a jump drive, then you're going to have to tether it to your laptop or try and find one of these little guys right here. Now the other thing about USB drives is sometimes you'll find a projector that shows that it has USB ports on the back of it. You got to be very careful, because even though it might have a USB port on it, doesn't necessarily mean that it accepts jump drives and it can project off of that jump drive. The USB ports that you will see on projectors are generally used for charging an external device, like maybe your phone, or a lot of times also too, it's used for updating software that's on the projector. So like I said, just because it shows in the pictures or it says it has a USB drive, or I would say USB ports, doesn't mean that it's going to be able to accept a jump drive and play any type of media that's off of it. So be very careful whenever you are shopping, and make sure that you know the differences between something that just charges a device, is used for software updates, or it can actually project and use media connected to that. Now another question that I get is, how do you mount your projectors? What do you use? There's a lot of different ways that you can actually do it. There's a lot of different types of tripods out there with unique and cool little connectors. Sometimes people will use like a photographer's tripod. When I first started doing monograms, that's what I used. I used this super heavy-duty photographer's tripod that had a ball mount on the very top that connected to the bottom of the projector, and it just screwed onto the top of a photography tripod, and that's what I used. And I know sometimes people will say, well, it's so flimsy, it's so little, why would you take the risk of mounting something that can be kind of heavy on a photography tripod? Some of the ones that are out there are very chintzy, very thin, very light and small. But the photography tripod that I was using, actually it was a $300 tripod, and it was super, super heavy duty, very heavy, didn't tip over at all. I mean, you literally had to put a lot of weight in to get the thing to push it, to be able to tip over. And the ball mount that I used was a $100 ball mount. It was solid steel. It was very, very heavy duty. So there are ways to actually mount a heavy projector on a photography tripod. There's another product that's out on the market that I'm all about, that I love, and a lot of people actually use. It's from a company called Projector. Projector actually has these mounts that are super heavy duty. Actually, it's called an HD projector mount. And you can go to projectorgram.com and you can find, they have a few different mounts that are on there, and they mount to a standard regular DJ tripod. And you know, it comes with all of the pieces that you need to attach to a projector. Comes with mounting hardware, has literally everything that you need. And the mount just screws onto the bottom, and then you just put your projector right on top of a DJ tripod or a flat base stand, and you're ready to go. And it gives you all different types of movement and allows you to adjust and change the projector any way you need it to be. And it's really good. It'll run you about $120. Again, I'm not sponsored by Projector. I just love their stuff. I think they put out quality gear. And also Projector will allow you to buy different designs as well. So if you don't have Photoshop, if you don't know how to use Canva, if you don't want to use PowerPoint, you can actually go to different websites like Projector and you can buy designs from them that are pretty easy to edit, and you're up and running in just a few minutes. For me, I have a whole bunch of different projectors. Ooh, I almost dropped this one. But you see I have just a couple here. I use projectors for a lot of different reasons. Not just monogram projection, but I also do video projection mapping. And what that is you basically project a kind of a cool animation or a video that is either on a wedding cake, on a ceiling, on specific walls. Even I've done it on a bride's dress. And what it does is it actually maps out the exact shape of whatever it is that you're projecting on, and it allows you to do some really, really cool stuff. So I do a lot with my projectors. It's just not a regular static monogram, but also you guys out there that are using projectors, you can use them in a few other different ways too. If you're looking for something to use them for that's not monograms, if you are doing video projection mapping and you're looking for something else, you can use them for photo slideshows. You can use them to project music videos. There's a lot of really cool ways that you can use a video projector that you can't use when you have the old school GOBO projectors or even like the little LED GOBO projectors. So that's another reason why the industry has moved towards using video projectors, is because there's so many more uses for them. And there's so many different ways that you can actually utilize and actually kind of build in additional revenue for your business whenever you do have a video projector. So there you go, guys. Just some quick tips and ideas when it comes to GOBOs and monograms and video projection and all that good stuff. If you got any questions, hit me up. Either leave a comment or just find me on Facebook, find me on Instagram, but let me know if you got questions. I try to help out, guys, when it comes to video projectors and monograms. I can give you a wealth of knowledge when it comes to them, what to look for, what to stay away from, and I'm always glad to help out if people are trying to get into monogram lighting and they just want to know more. So as always, everybody, a day without dancing is a day wasted. Thank you to everyone who has liked, commented, subscribed, and until next week, friends, take care.